Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and Cody. This is the inaugural episode of Unqualified Experts, a podcast where some experts in a particular subject decide to sit down and impart their knowledge on the rest of the viewing audience. Um, and our thought, this is the first episode we're going to be doing of this, and we hope to make this a semi-regular thing. And we got together and talked about this and decided that we were going to pick some topics that were current, that may be important to a large number of people, and they're going to kind of run the gamut from anything from, technology, sociology, more ologies that I can't name right now, pretty much anything you can think of. I'll be the host on this adventure of a podcast. My name is Jonathan Martin. I'm a pharmacist. I'm a father. I'm a lover. I'm many things. And I kind of want to go around and introduce everybody else that's going to be here with us on this journey of experts. So, Cody, why don't we start with you? Who are you? What do you do? Why are you qualified to be here?
I'm Cody. I'm an expert, and that's what makes me qualified to be here. Back to you, John.
Okay, you didn't tell me much of anything, but I think you're going to be a valuable asset to this
Thank
team.
you.
To this team. How about you, Megan? I actually don't know you. I don't know who you are, but I was told that you're very intelligent, kind of an expert on everything. So I thought we kind of have to have you on this show.
I'm not an expert on everything. I'm not an expert on anything, actually. I just read Wikipedia pages when I get bored.
I think that may qualify you more than anybody else on this show to be on this show. So Megan,
I can leave it. It's not a. If I know too much, just let me know.
Oh, trust me, I will. Logan.
Yes, sir.
I've known you for a long time.
Yeah.
And I know that you are qualified to be on this show
Thank you.
because you think you know everything.
So
that's
that is exactly correct, John.
And I can't think of a better reason for you to be here.
I'm probably the best at selling ideas to people about what I feel that I know, but I may not actually know.
And I think your unique skill that you bring to the table that none of us have is that you live in Colorado.
I do. High altitude living, John. I believe that means that I have 3 times the red blood cells that you do.
When you come, you're going to be able to run far longer than any of us when you come back. When you come back to sea level.
That's another thing that I'm an expert in.
I know. That's very impressive. That's very impressive. And finally, we have Cody's arch nemesis, Andrea. I can't think of a better way to introduce you. Is that fairly consistent with what you actually?
Accurate?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is your sole purpose to be here to basically tear down anything Cody says?
I mean, he does it himself enough that I don't really feel like that would keep me that busy.
And you also seem like a very intelligent person as well. So I have a feeling that you're going to probably, and I mean, I think Cody's going to be a valuable asset. I really do, to this particular team. I think you might be more valuable than him. Logan, you and Megan might also be more valuable than him. But Cody, I think you're going to be a valuable asset to this team.
I was invited.
Yeah, but Andrew, I am excited to have you here. I'm excited to hear the various ways in which Cody is wrong, which is what I'm assuming you're really going to help us bring to the table.
I think I'm really good at highlighting that. I can only do so much being blonde and a woman, but I do my best.
Right. So I was thinking that for the majority of the show, just Cody, Logan, and I would talk, and then the ladies could maybe just sit in the back and support our statements.
Yeah.
With affirmation. Is that
I'll
something?
be in the kitchen though, so you're gonna need to like project
I just need you to yell every 30 seconds that we're doing a great job and that you love us. I mean, is that okay? I think that's something you can do. All right. So all jokes aside, we have some serious topics to talk about. Again, the first episode, I wanted it to be, we just had Christmas 3.5 months ago. So I thought that this particular gentleman would be a good topic for our first episode.
Okay, so
because of the Christmas
talk
holiday.
about me first.
So we here at the Unqualified Experts have chosen to impart our knowledge to you, listening and viewing audience, about Charles Dickens, truly one of the great American authors in America of yesterday, right? Because he's
Is he American though?
Yeah,
Isn't he British?
Look, I mean, he could be American, he could be British. They both speak English, all right? So, and they're certainly they're certainly not the ones ruining the country. I think we can all agree on that. So, I mean, yes, when I say American, I mean English speaking. I guess that's what I was trying to say.
That's also what I qualify as an American.
Right, and the reason why it's important to associate him with Christmas, which is what I just did, was because he wrote one of the greatest Bill Murray screenplays of any of the traditional American authors. Right? I mean, Bill Murray was in Scrooged, which is based on A Christmas Carol, which is a Charles Dickens novel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Bill Murray's hilarious.
Although the original cast of A Christmas Carol was performed, if I'm not mistaken, by the Muppets.
Yeah, no, that was an adaptation again of A Christmas Carol, which that's what Scrooged was too. So, first I want to share I want to share an important point about Charles Dickens that I know, and then I'm going to kind of open the floor here. So here's what I know about Charles Dickens. He was paid by the word by the newspapers in which he was published. So, if you ever read a Charles Dickens novel, which I've read them all, I haven't, that's not true, but I have read at least one. He was and he's dead now, God rest his soul. He was a wordy man because he was paid by the word, right? So, like, if you ever read Charles Dickens, he is an incredibly verbose writer by, I guess you could call it necessity, because he was paid by the word. So, like, that's why if you ever read his novels, they're horrible. But they're in a classic American writer kind of way. Really, a writer of our time. So that is an important thing that I know about Charles Dickens.
I actually know a fact. I don't know if he was paid by the word or not, but I do know that what are considered novels now were originally serializations. So, like, you would listen, he didn't write for radio, obviously, but just like I think most people would be most familiar with radio serializations, he wrote for, like, magazine-style serialization. So he would write, like, a chapter, and then you would have to wait for the next exciting chapter, a week or a month down the line, and apparently that's how all of his books are structured.
Right.
So
the thing is he never wrote anything exciting, so really that doesn't matter. Cody, you mentioned to me that you knew a lot about Charles Dickens related to some other forms of media in which he was highlighted. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I know that for a fact that Charles Dickens was estranged from his wife and kids for a while, but then after a chance encounter, after a performance on Christmas Eve, he went and reconciled with them, and he lived out the rest of his couple months, and then he died of dysentery or whatever people died of back in the days of ancient England.
The Oregon Trail?
What was it?
So what, was he on the Oregon Trail?
I don't know. Is Oregon in London?
America?
We have established that Charles Dickens is an American writer.
So anyway, but yeah, and then and he was told, one of the last things he was told was that he asked, "How long do my works last?" And he was told forever by the doctor, who then got in his TARDIS and left. So that's a true story.
Which Doctor was that?
The 10th Doctor, Christopher Eccleston.
Oh, I see.
Unless he was the 9th. But either way, he was one of them.
What was he a doctor of?
He's the Doctor.
What makes him an authority on Charles Dickens?
Andrea, can you take this one?
No.
Well, he's been to London like every 5 minutes for the last 20 years, so I'm pretty sure that he's an expert on anything in that city.
But Charles Dickens was American.
They speak English in there. Hello. We already covered this.
Okay. So London is in America, I guess, is basically what we've established, but we know that's dumb and not true. So, okay, so Charles Dickens was an American writer that may or may not have died on the Oregon Trail, at least that's what I'm hearing from you, of dysentery.
Right.
Because that's what the doctor said?
No. The Doctor said his works will last forever. And they do. Because he's been to the future, and he would know.
Charles Dickens has been to the future?
No, the Doctor. You don't listen at all, do you?
I'm really trying to follow you here.
What I also know about Charles Dickens is that he had a crazy beard. Have you seen it? Like, legitimately a crazy beard.
You sure you're not thinking of Charles Darwin?
That's Darwin, isn't it?
No,
Yeah,
Dickens
that's
also,
it's a totally different Charles.
No, Dickens also had a crazy beard. Darwin had a big beard. Dickens had a weird, crazy beard.
Okay.
Andrea, back me up on that.
I don't want to, but yeah, his beard was a little crazy.
Okay. I mean, I'm all for a crazy beard, I guess. Megan, tell me what you know about Charles Dickens. You seem more studied on him than maybe any of us.
Well, Charles Dickens is not American. He is English.
Are you reading Wikipedia right now?
No.
Look, we're
But if he met the doctor in London, why would he be in America?
because we established at the start of this episode that he is the great American author. That is why.
It's now
Well,
canon.
maybe some of us are more expert than others.
Look, I do not disagree with you. There is a very good chance that one of us may be a bigger expert on Charles Dickens than the other. The guy talking about the doctor, I don't know if he's that big of an expert on Charles Dickens. I'm not going to lie. Because I don't know who the doctor is, and neither does he. So, I agree with you, I think. But, tell
He's
me
a
what
Time
you know.
Lord.
Charles Dickens was not a Time Lord.
The
Megan, tell me.
Doctor is a Time Lord.
Now, hang on. I know that the Time Lords are like, they died out or something, right? But what's their deal? Why are they... If Charles Dickens was one, which you are asserting, I would like this opportunity to hear from somebody who knows.
Good question, Logan. I'll throw that one to Andrea, who can definitely answer it.
Please.
How did this happen? That's not what he was saying. Why do you guys keep setting me up to support him? This is not my role on here. I'm not supposed to be agreeing with Cody.
I don't understand anything about this doctor thing. And I would like to get back to Megan, who might actually have some pertinent information about Charles Dickens, the original subject of this episode, who has nothing to do with a doctor. I'm fairly certain that maybe he went to the doctor when he was sick. I don't think he had anything like to do with the doctor. That's like a proper noun. I don't know what that means. Megan, tell me what you know about Charles Dickens. Apparently, he was American, but he lived in London.
He spoke English, and
Like a
he
true
wrote.
American.
Right. He lived in London, Kentucky, which I'm going to in May.
Okay.
And so that was his hometown.
This is making a lot more sense now.
And he wrote a book about a grumpy old man and a little boy with possibly polio.
Yeah,
But I don't remember.
Tiny Tim, right?
And the old man gets visited by some ghosts. I mean, that's Christmas
He
Carol.
gets visited by the ghosts of Christmas tenses, past, present, and future.
actually, the ghosts of Christmas
which also,
tenses.
I mean, that's where time travel comes in. That's where the time warp comes in.
Thank you.
Is this the
Oh.
story of like Joseph? What's his name? The Mormon dude. Is
That's
that what
in the
you're?
Bible, Logan. And he had a dream code.
All right. So we've established that Charles Dickens. We've established now that Charles Dickens was an American living in London, Kentucky, who wrote at least one great American novel, A Christmas Carol. I know he also wrote Oliver Twist, and then the other major motion picture musical, Annie, right? Because those two go hand in hand. They're both about orphans.
Actually, it was a crossover. Tiny Tim is Little Orphan Annie in drag, but later on in her life. So after she escapes from the orphanage and gets adopted by a rich couple, they fall into poverty, she cross-dresses, loses her leg, becomes Tiny Tim because no one is going to give money to a small handicapped woman because why would they? She's not going to contribute to society anyway. Because back in the 1800s, it was the industrial era, and only men were seen as valuable workers. So this was before feminism saved society from ruin, basically, and women were not viewed as capable workers or soldiers. So that is why Annie cross-dressed as Tiny Tim. She had to ditch the red hair, obviously, because that would be a dead giveaway that she's Annie, and she died in A Christmas Carol. Because I believe that's how it ends, right? Tiny Tim dying, and Scrooge goes to the funeral.
Yeah, I think that Charles Dickens did write kind of some dark material. So no, that kind of jives with what I remember reading.
Right. Okay.
And and like I said, he also wrote Oliver Twist as well, which he had a thing for orphans, I think.
Well, Oliver Twist was an orange cat, right?
What?
That was a Nickelodeon
New York?
cartoon, Heathcliff.
No. Oliver Twist was an orange cat.
No, it was Garfield. It was Garfield.
Okay, Garfield and Heathcliff are also orange cats.
Well,
Again, I'm about to support
Here.
Cody. How is this happening?
No, that's okay. You can. That's fine. I mean, we're
No,
all experts here.
It's far from okay, Jonathan. You're talking about the orange cat from New York.
Yes.
Yes.
See? There was an orange cat from New York named Oliver.
Wait
I
a
believe
minute.
he had a company.
Wait a minute. Are we going to end this episode with a joke saying that this is the Aristocats?
Well, now we can't.
No, because the episode is still going to go on. But that could have been one possible ending to this episode. Just tally them, because there are probably going to be multiple ones. Okay, so just to recap, we have Charles Dickens, the great American author, who lived in London, Kentucky. He was paid by the word and wrote serializations in American newspapers. Apparently, we don't know which ones, right? But he wrote the great American novels through serializations in newspapers while being paid by the word. He wrote about orphans and about transgender orphans, which I think was kind of progressive for its time.
so I actually know another fact about him. He had a lot of critics. I don't know if it was during his time or after, but people thought he was too sappy. That's all I know.
Too sappy?
You what?
Yeah, he's too
Sentimental?
He likes to have good endings, or he likes to have. He's too nice in his.
So what would people rather happen to his cross-dressing orphans?
I mean, Cody
Yeah.
made it sound like
Crossdressed and then she died? That's not a happy ending.
I know, that sounds like a sad ending, but you know what? People were harder back then because life was harder. So maybe just dying at the end of the novel, like in a nice way, is considered like, maybe that's considered a sad ending. Maybe if Tiny Tabitha had been like run over by a car like multiple times and then shit on by a bird, maybe that would have been more like I don't know, like maybe that would have been the ending that the American audience was looking for at the time. I don't know, because like I said, life was harder back then. People were dying of dysentery while traveling west for gold.
Yeah, see, I don't know how true your tidbit is, Logan, because I thought, you know that phrase, hurts like the Dickens? I thought that came from the fact that he did write really hard, like, real stories. So where would that come from if they thought he was too sappy?
That's a really good point.
I have no idea.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I think so. So Charles Dickens was like, he was kind of an asshole. I think we can
Yeah.
kind of put that along with the things that we know about him too.
Maybe he was just helping people get ready for real life and not encouraging a bunch of Sallys who were getting ribbons for everything. Maybe he was just...
Yeah, no. I think, Andrew, I think you've got a good point there. I think you might be right.
I think if that's how you want to succeed in the biz, maybe you have to be kind of an asshole.
Plus, if he was from Kentucky, he was probably drunk 90% of the time.
Right, because they make bourbon there,
Right.
like Kentucky bourbon.
Right.
So he probably was drunk all the time.
So I have a question.
Are you thinking of it now, or...
What if Charles Dickens wasn't American? What if he was Londonish?
Well,
Londoner.
he was Londonish.
Is this before or after we emancipated Great Britain? I'm a little vague on the Revolutionary War, to be entirely honest.
Well, I believe that we established that he was from London, Kentucky. So he was, in fact, a Londoner.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, question
And
and
we
answer.
could-
Continue.
And we could always do an episode on the Revolutionary War. I think we would all have a lot to offer.
I know Megan would.
I was
I know a
saying,
lot about metal detecting.
Yeah.
It's Revolutionary War. That's basically all you can metal detect in the United States.
That's right.
Revolutionary War stuff.
That's right. Logan knows. See? It'll be a great episode for another time.
Well,
So,
I have nothing else to add about Charles Dickens.
I agree. You know,
That's
I
not
think I really think that we know way more than we thought we knew. I knew we were smart. I didn't know we were that smart. Or that well versed in Charles Dickens. I really didn't. So I'm kind of impressed by most of you, and I'll let you figure out the ones I'm not impressed with. And that'll
It's
be
okay,
that.
Andrea. You'll still be invited back. Probably.
Cody, I kind of feel like this is, you know, when... Oh, well, you've probably never been asked to do the dishes, but when you ask a guy to do the dishes and then he does it wrong because he doesn't want to do it from that point on, like, that's kind of what I was going for here.
I don't understand what you're talking about. When I'm done with my food, I
Throw your plate against the wall.
yes, I actually spike my plate into the floor so it shatters everywhere, and then I use the shattered pieces of dish as toilet paper, just to make myself more
What?
testosterone.
Make yourself harder, like they lived back in the 1800s when Charles Dickens was
Exactly.
writing his novels.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, and Cody, I appreciate you all for joining us here on the Unqualified Experts. And listeners and viewers, I hope you learned something today about Charles Dickens that maybe you didn't know before. Because that's what we're here to provide. We're here to provide knowledge. So thanks for joining us.